A stolen trophy found by a dog, a football qualifier that started a real war, and a retired footballer living on an island called back by his president. These aren't myths. Every single one of these is documented history. 10 World Cup stories that actually happened. Fact 1. The World Cup nobody wanted to attend. Uruguay, 1930, the very first World Cup ever held. Here's what the history books skip. Almost nobody from Europe bothered to show up. The continent was collapsing economically. The Great Depression had just hit. And getting to Uruguay from Europe meant 2 weeks on a ship across the Atlantic. One way. Out of every European nation, only 4 sent teams. Romania, France, Yugoslavia, Belgium. That's it. 1 continent, 4 countries. Romania only made it because their king intervened. King Carol II, personally, by royal decree, selected the players himself, negotiated with their employers to give each man 3 months off work, and funded the journey. A king. Picking the squad. Like a royal fantasy football draft. With slightly higher stakes than your office sweepstake. Fact 2. The final played with 2 different balls, the 1930 World Cup final, Uruguay versus Argentina. Before a single whistle blew, the 2 teams were already arguing. Argentina brought their own ball, a larger, more buoyant design they'd been using throughout the tournament. Uruguay refused to play with it. The referee, Belgian official John Langenus, made a call that has never been made before or since in a World Cup final. First half, Argentina's ball. Second half, Uruguay's ball. Halftime, Argentina 2, Uruguay 1. The ball changed. Uruguay scored 3 more goals on their own pitch in front of 68,000 of their own supporters. Full time, Uruguay 4, Argentina 2. Argentina still believes this matters. Historians tend to agree it probably did. Fact 3. The trophy that was stolen and found by a dog, England, March 1966, 4 months before the country was due to host the World Cup. The Jules Rimet Trophy, solid gold, 30 centimeters tall, worth an estimated £30,000 at the time, was on display at the Central Hall, Westminster. Someone broke in on a Sunday night and walked out with the most famous trophy in world football. Scotland Yard launched a full investigation. Nothing. 1 week passed. Still nothing. Then, a 26-year-old Thames lighterman named David Corbett was out walking his dog, a mixed-breed terrier called Pickles, in Beulah Hill, South London. Pickles pulled toward a hedge. Corbett followed. Inside a folded newspaper package, the Jules Rimet Trophy, just sitting there, under a hedge, in someone's front garden. Pickles got fan mail. He appeared on television. He attended the official World Cup winners' banquet that summer. David Corbett received a £6,000 reward, equivalent to roughly £130,000 today. Pickles received a year's supply of dog food. The man who stole it was never identified. Pickles died in 1967, chasing a cat and accidentally hanging himself on his lead. England won the World Cup that summer. Fact 4. The country that refused to play in boots. 1950 World Cup, Brazil. India qualified for the first time in the country's history. Years of struggle through the Asian qualifying system finally rewarded. FIFA issued a ruling. All players must wear boots. No exceptions. The All India Football Federation said no. This wasn't stubbornness. Across India, particularly in West Bengal, barefoot football was deeply embedded in the culture. Indian sides regularly beat European opponents without footwear. For many of these players, wearing boots was genuinely disorienting. India withdrew from the tournament entirely. Travel costs were also a factor, but the boots dispute was real, documented, and never resolved. India chose their principles over the tournament. They have not qualified for a World Cup since. Fact 5. The accounting student who knocked out the champions. 1950 World Cup, Group Stage, Italy versus the United States. Italy were the dominant force in world football, 2 consecutive World Cup titles, a squad built on the best of Serie A. The United States were mostly amateur. Many worked day jobs. Nobody outside their own dugout expected a contest. Then there was Joe Gaetjens. Gaetjens was born in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. He'd moved to New York to study accounting at Columbia University. He wasn't even a full U.S. citizen yet. He'd filed for naturalization, but the paperwork wasn't complete. FIFA allowed him to play under the rules of the time. Walter Barr of the USA hit a shot from distance. It was going wide. Gaetjens threw himself forward, head stretched out. The ball deflected off the top of Gaetjens' head and looped into the net. The USA won 1-0. Sports editors in England received the result and assumed it was a typo. Several newspapers refused to print it. Italy, two-time world champions, knocked out by a forehead, a Haitian accounting student's forehead. Joe Gaetjens returned to Haiti after his playing career. He was arrested by the Tonton Macoute in 1964 under the Duvalier dictatorship and was never seen again. The scoreline was just the beginning of that story. Fact 6. The Football War. This is not a metaphor. El Salvador and Honduras, a 3-match World Cup qualifying series, 1969. The two countries had been building toward conflict for years, over land, over immigration, over tensions their governments had failed to resolve. Football lit the fuse. After the first leg in Tegucigalpa, Honduran fans surrounded the Salvadoran hotel overnight. Drums, fireworks, no sleep. El Salvador lost 1-0. After the return leg in San Salvador, Honduran fans were attacked leaving the stadium. 2 died. Diplomatic relations between the two countries collapsed within days. On July 14, 1969, 4 days after the playoff in Mexico City, El Salvador's Air Force launched strikes on Honduran targets. The war lasted 100 hours, officially known as the Soccer War, 1969, 2,000 plus dead. El Salvador qualified for the World Cup. They were eliminated in the group stage without scoring a single goal. Honduras didn't qualify. Let that sit. Fact 7. Both teams tried to score own goals at the same time. January 27, 1994, Shell Biwag Caribbean Cup, Barbados versus Grenada. Barbados needed to win by 2 goals to advance. With 8 minutes left, they were winning 2-1, 1 goal short. The Barbados players did the maths and decided to score on themselves. Here's the logic. A tournament rule stated that a golden goal in extra time counted as a 2-goal margin of victory. So Barbados calculated, score an own goal, tie it at 2-2, reach extra time, score once, advance. Then Grenada understood what was happening, so they started trying to score their own goal, because a 1-goal Barbados win would still eliminate Barbados. For the final minutes, both teams defended the opposition's goal and attacked their own. Defenders blocked their own strikers. The goalkeeper didn't know which end danger was coming from. The crowd fell silent, then started laughing. Barbados held on, got to extra time, scored the golden goal. Advanced. This is a real documented FIFA result. The rule was quietly amended shortly afterward. Fact 8. The Zaire free kick. Zaire, now the Democratic Republic of Congo, were the first sub-Saharan African nation to qualify for the World Cup. They'd arrived in West Germany after winning the Africa Cup of Nations, a team that had earned their place. June 22, 1974, Gelsenkirchen. Brazil won a free kick on the edge of the box. The wall was set. The goalkeeper, Robert Kazadi, was positioned. Then Mwepu Ilunga, a Zaire defender in the wall, suddenly broke ranks, sprinted forward and blasted the ball upfield before the kick was even taken. The clip became shorthand for incompetence, an example of a player who had no idea what a free kick was. Here's what was actually happening. The Zaire squad had reportedly been warned by officials connected to Mobutu Sese Seko's government that losing by more than 3 goals would mean serious consequences back home. They were already 3-0 down. Brazil were building for another. Ilunga wasn't confused. He was desperate. He did the only thing he could think of to waste time. Brazil scored from the retaken free kick. The final score stayed 3-0. For 30 years, Mwepu Ilunga tried to correct the record. He died in 20 Clarkon Sanasam Sat San Sirk the Anstarn San Stain Saturvan Ein Beeper D Key Conscross Stonstub Uri Durliala deal circulates without context. Fact 9. The president who called a retired footballer back from his island. Roger Milla was 38 years old. He'd played at the highest level for 2 decades, clubs across France and Cameroon, the 1982 World Cup. He'd announced his retirement and was living quietly on a French island in the Indian Ocean. Career over. Chapter closed. Then Paul Biya, the president of Cameroon, called him. Personally, no intermediary, no coach on his behalf. The head of state, calling an athlete on an island, asking him to come back for one more tournament. Milla said yes. He scored 4 goals at 38 years old. After each one, he ran to the corner flag and danced, a celebration that had never been seen before and became one of the most iconic images in World Cup history. Cameroon reached the quarterfinals, the furthest any African nation had gone at that point. At 42, Biya called him back for 1994. Milla scored again against Russia, becoming the oldest goal scorer in World Cup history at the time because he answered the phone. Fact 10. The octopus that predicted the World Cup. South Africa, 2010, the biggest football tournament on the planet, and the most reliable predictor of results wasn't a coach, an analyst, or a supercomputer. It was a common octopus named Paul. Paul lived at the Sea Life Center in Oberhausen, Germany. Before each match, staff lowered 2 food boxes into his tank, 1 per country. Whichever Paul opened first was his prediction. 8 predictions. 8 correct results, including the winner of the World Cup. Scientists said probability, coincidence, confirmation bias. The octopus didn't comment. Paul died on October 26, 2010, aged approximately 2.5 years old. He never made a single incorrect World Cup prediction in his life. Paul the Octopus, 2008 to 2010, undefeated. 1 tournament, 100 years of history, and somehow it keeps getting stranger. A king who drafted the squad, a dog who solved the theft, a war started by a qualifier, 2 teams attacking their own goals, 1 man who answered the phone. The World Cup is the biggest sporting event on Earth. The strange bits are the real ones. More stories like this, below.